Hi everyone. Thank you for joining me for another excerpt of my upcoming novel, His Last Chance, which I expect to be available to the public on October 16, 2022. Now, just in case you're new to my work, I'm M.A. Malcolm, and this book, His Last Chance, is the third in my His Last Hope series of contemporary Christian romance novels. The first one, His Last Hope, was released in 2015, and at the time I thought it was going to be just one book. However, when people got it, they started to ask when was the next book coming out, and I felt like there was the potential for me to write another book and maybe even other books. And so after releasing His Last Hope in 2015, I did a prequel called His Last Resort in 2017. So it's a little bit confusing to people who are new to me and my work because His Last Hope came out first, but it turns out that it is book 2 in the His Last Hope series, and His Last Resort came out second, but because it happens chronologically before His Last Hope, I decided to reverse the numbers so that His Last Resort is book 1 and His Last Hope is book 2. And this is the long-awaited book 3 in the His Last Hope series. This is His Last Chance, and as I mentioned, I expect it to be available to the public on October 16, which is a Sunday, God willing. So just to catch you up a little bit, I've been doing a few excerpts on Facebook Live, but I'm having some audio issues with Facebook Live, and when I try to use my computer, I'm having some video issues with Facebook Live. So I decided to record this as if I were doing it live and upload it to my YouTube channel. So it takes place in Jamaica mostly and a little bit in Costa Rica towards the end of it. But what happens in His Last Hope, what happens in His Last Chance is that there's an actuary called Zoe Grace Goodluck, who, I'll take the glasses off for a minute, even though I won't be able to see anything. You'll be able to see me without the glare. So Zoe Grace Goodluck is an actuary who is working in the insurance industry. But then her father dies suddenly, and as a result of the fallout of her father's death and the way he died, she is forced to give up her, her job as an actuary and to move to rural Jamaica, where she's from, in order to care for her mother. Now, she and her mother have never been close, and the situation has even been worse since her father died. She takes a temporary job as a math professor in a position that her best friend, Maxwell, vacated for a couple of, I think it was 3 semesters, so that he could pursue a master's degree or something. And so she got a temporary job. But she's not making enough money to cover all of her bills and her mother's bills. Now enter Captain Isaiah Hendricks, whom she meets briefly at the beginning of the book. And over the course of a few chapters, it turns out that she decides that she's going to buy some lottery tickets for her math class because she's teaching math, and she wants some real life material to be able to use with her students. And Captain Hendricks decides that he wants to buy the lottery tickets for her. And you'll see why if you read the book. So, of course, the book is called His Last Chance. And it's no secret that they're going to end up winning the jackpot. And so I'm going to read from the last paragraph of the blurb, which says, when they win big, Zoe Grace and Isaiah clash on how to handle not only their ideological differences concerning the jackpot, but the growing attraction between them as well. Hello, young man. Goodbye, young man. Can Aunt Ruby's godly wisdom help them figure things out? And when the unthinkable separates them, will Isaiah and Zoe Grace find each other again, or will life's hills and valleys keep them away from God and from each other? And I'm going to read an excerpt from the 7th chapter. And just to set this scene up a little bit, it's been 2 weeks since the lottery jackpot was drawn, but Zoe Grace has not yet realized that she is in possession of the winning tickets. So we're picking up from her entering the staff lounge at the college where she works to hear the other professors in the lounge talking about the fact that somebody in their part of the country has won the lottery and has not um, made contact with the lottery company. So here goes. Oh, I need my glasses. I can read without them, but I'll have to have the book really close to my face. All right, so what's going on? Don't you folks have exam papers to grade? Zoe Grace joked with her colleagues as she entered the staff lounge that afternoon to find them clustered around Miss Clemmings' desk. Don't you follow the news, Miss Goodluck? Miss Clemmings asked. There's an article about that huge lottery jackpot the other day. Oh, Zoe Grace murmured as she sat at her desk. What about it? It's been 2 weeks and no one has come forward to claim it. Really? Zoe Grace had completely forgotten about the tickets used as props in her class several weeks earlier. For the first time, she felt like the students could relate to something she was trying to teach them. Once she believed they had adequately grasped the related statistical concepts, she had moved on. She winced as she remembered that she still hadn't reimbursed Isaiah Hendricks for the tickets. She needed to take a drive to Negril to do just that. She wanted to hand the money into his hands, and that would be her only guarantee that he would get it. What was the jackpot? She asked absent-mindedly. She swallowed hard when Miss Clemmings responded. Over $5 million US. Wait a minute. Mr. Withers looked in Zoe Grace's direction. Didn't I see you with some lottery tickets around the last week or two of teaching? Yes, I bought them for my class, but we used the tickets in class and we checked all the numbers. Well, maybe you should double check them. Mr. Withers seemed to be only half joking. This article says the winning ticket was sold in Hanover. Can you imagine? So close to home. Pity it wasn't me. I don't believe in gambling, but in hindsight, I wish I did. God is a forgiving God. I know he wouldn't hold it against me. Zoe Grace slid out her desk's top drawer, where she kept the tickets she had used in her class. She waved the envelope at Mr. Withers, whose speed in coming to grab it from her belied his considerable weight. Taking the envelope, he all but ran to Miss Clemmings' desk, where the other teachers crowded around him as he checked each sequence of numbers against those mentioned in the article. Zoe Grace showed no interest. She knew none of the tickets had won. She and her students had discussed the numbers at length in class. They had drawn up graphs and charts. They had looked at historical data and tried to figure out how much money had been lost by all the non-winners combined, based on the average number of tickets sold. There was absolutely no way she and the students could have missed a winning combination. Sucking his teeth loudly, Mr. Withers stuck the tickets back into the envelope and handed it to Zoe Grace as he made his way to his own chair. She almost laughed at his palpable disappointment. If I had won it, you would know, he asserted. As he leaned back in his chair, Zoe Grace hoped the strain wouldn't cause it to collapse. The first thing I would have done is quit this stressful job. No doubt. I would never work another day in my life, Miss Clemmings giggled. I would buy myself a private island and retire there. Only my mother would know where to find me. As a matter of fact, the two of us would move there and none of you folks would ever hear from me again. Mr. Withers laughed. You got that right. I don't know why the lottery company insists that people have to come to their offices and collect the check. In this digital age, they should just transfer it into your bank account. That wouldn't work for them, man, Mr. Lewis posited. When people win the lottery, it makes more people want to buy it, you know. To them, seeing a photograph, even if the person is wearing a disguise, is proof that there was a winner. They tell themselves, somebody has to win eventually, so why not me? At least your name is kind of common, Mr. Withers said. There must be dozens of H. Lewises in the country. Somebody like Miss Goodluck now. Can you imagine? Not only is her last name unusual, but the whole country would erupt if somebody named Goodluck won the lottery. Everybody would know it's either her or someone related to her. And then there's the fact that her first name starts with a Z or Z. I'm sure she's the only Z Goodluck in the entire island. He turned to look at Zoe Grace. You'd have to pay somebody to collect the check for you. Somebody you trust to give you the money after they collect it. That could be a sweet deal, you know. Offer them an even 10% and let them deal with all the relatives coming out of the woodwork and all the hard luck stories. while you ride off into the sunset. Or better yet, drive off in your new Bentley. I volunteer for the job, Mr. Lewis offered. I'd do what that lady who wore the emoji mask did. And the one guy, he wore a ghost face mask. I would wear an Elmo suit. Not a soul could identify me. Zoe Grace smiled. Considering the fact that they were discussing gambling and her last name had come up, she was relieved that none of her colleagues had mentioned hashtag church hypocrite or hashtag the gambling deacon, two topics that had been trending locally just over a year earlier. She couldn't help but wonder whether her father would have been mentioned if she hadn't been present. If I ever win the lottery, Mr. Lewis, she offered, I'll be sure to keep that in mind. Zoe Grace put the whole matter out of her mind and tried to focus on the papers she needed to grade that day if she was going to finish all her work before her contract ended the week after Christmas. She didn't even want to think about Christmas right now. Just like last year, when they had been reeling from her father's death, there would be no huge meal, no visiting family, and definitely no gifts. She sighed and got back to work. It was only when she was heading to the parking lot that evening that she even remembered that she had 2 additional tickets. Since the extra lottery tickets Isaiah had insisted on buying weren't on her lesson plan, she hadn't used them in her class. Instead, she had slipped them between the pages of her lesson planning book and promptly forgot all about them. She wondered where the planner was at that very moment. As she drove out of the parking lot, she smiled at the security guard as he triggered the electronic barrier so she could leave. "See you tomorrow," he chuckled. "Yes, ma'am. See you tomorrow for more of the same. The only thing that will change is the date." As it turned out, Zoe Grace would not go to work the next day. Instead, she called in and requested a few personal days so she could handle a non-medical emergency. And contrary to what the security guard had predicted, everything had changed overnight. So, that's an excerpt from chapter 7 of His Last Chance. It will be available as a paperback, as well as a hardcover, and as an ebook on October 16. That's Sunday, October 16. Sunday is an unusual day for a book launch, but it's the date that I got when I prayed about it. So Sunday, October 16th is the day that you'll be able to meet Zoe Grace Goodluck and Captain Isaiah Hendricks for yourself as you read His Last Chance. All right. I think I'm going to record another video in which I give you just a few tidbits of information about the progress of His Last Chance, because this version of the manuscript, this version of the book is very different from the first version that I wrote. So I'll give you some insight into that in another video. Take care. God bless and keep you. See you soon.